Chapter 8 of The Bright Messenger by Algernon Blackwood. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. The Bright Messenger. Chapter 8. To Debenham, meanwhile, Levallone's behavior was polite and kind and distant. He did not show distrust of any sort, but he betrayed a certain diffidence, reserve, and caution. Trust he felt, sympathy he did not feel. To the amusement of Fillory, he suggested almost a kind of mild contempt when dealing with him, and this amusement was increased by the fact that it obviously annoyed Debenham, while it gratified his chief. For towards Fillory, Levalloon behaved with an intimate and understanding sympathy that proved his instantaneous affection based upon mutual comprehension. It seemed that Levalloon and Fillory had known one another always. It was doubtless due to this innate sympathy between them that Edward Fillory's rare gift of absorbing the content of another's mind, even to the point of taking on that other's conditions, physical and emotional at the same time, was so successful. By means of a highly developed power of autosuggestion, he had learned so to identify his own mind, thought, feeling with those of a patient, that there resulted a kind of merging by which he literally became that patient. He felt with him. As a subject sees the pictures in the hypnotizer's mind, perceives his thoughts, divines his slightest will, so Fillory, reversing the process, could realize for the moment exactly what his patient was thinking, feeling, desiring. It was of great use to him in his strange practice. This gift, naturally, varied in degree, and was not invariably successful. In some cases he only felt, the emotion alone being thus transferred. In others he only saw what the patient saw, or thought he saw, the accompanying emotion being omitted. In others again, as in cases of vision at a distance, either of time or space, he had been able to follow the traveling sight of his patient, whose consciousness in trance was operating far away, and thus to check for subsequent verification exactly what that patient saw. He had shared strange experiences with others, with a man, for instance, in whom sight was transferred to the tip of his index finger, so that he could read a book by passing that finger along the printed line. With a woman, again, in whom exteriorized consciousness manifested itself, so that if the air several inches from her face was pinched or struck, the impact was received, and an actual bruise produced upon her skin. This extension of consciousness, its seeds already in his nature, he had trained and developed to a point where he could almost rely upon autosuggestion bringing about quickly the desired conditions. Its success, however, as mentioned, was variable. With N.H., especially now, this variableness was marked. Sometimes it was so easily accomplished as to seem natural and without a conscious effort, while at other times it failed completely. Since it was in no sense an attempt to transfer anything from his own mind to that of the patient, Fillory felt that his promise to his colleague was not involved. The following scene describes the first time in which the process took place with his new patient. Fillory himself wrote down the words, supplied the detailed description, filled in the emotion and psychology, but exactly as these occurred and as he felt them, both when these took place, respectively, in his own consciousness and in that of his patient. Part of the time he was present, part of it he was not visibly so, being screened from observation, yet so placed that he could note everything that happened. It is clear, however, that his mind was so intimately en rapport with the thoughts and feelings of N.H. that he experienced in his own being all that N.H. experienced. The description was written immediately after the occurrence, though some of it, the spoken language in particular, was jotted down in his hiding-place at the actual moment. The interlacing of the two minds, their interpenetration, as it were, one occasionally dominating the other, is curious to trace and far from difficult to disentangle. Similarly, the interweaving of Levallois and NH is noticeable. The description given by Debenham of the portion of the occurrence he witnessed personally, or heard about from Nurse Robbins and the attendants, this description reduces the whole thing to the commonplace level of a slight seizure accompanied by signs of violence and moments of delirium due to excitement and fatigue, and soon cured by sleep. The occurrence took place precisely at the period when the moon was at the full. End of Chapter 8.